Let's talk about the Fantastic Four First Steps trailer. So, pull this up for a second. So the Fantastic Four trailer dropped last week, and it had the whole entire fandom buzzing, right? So we got our first look at Shia LaBeouf. We got more shots of the Fantastic Four using their powers. We finally got to see Reed stretching. Finally, it took a few trailers, and we even got to see hints of Franklin being born, and we got to see Galactus's foot. We got to see his foot. But bro, I want to ask, how did you feel about the Fantastic Four trailer, and just what are some things that's kind of circling in your mind?
At first I was really just frustrated with it because of Shia LaBeouf and just the whatever. And then I watched it again and I was like, okay, this movie actually does look really good though. Like it actually looks amazing. And I can't wait for it. I'm so excited for this movie. It's my number one movie of the summer. And I feel like that's not common, which is kind of weird. I feel like everyone's saying Superman or Thunderbolts. But for me, it's Fantastic Four. They are my favorite character of all of the ones that we're talking about. But they are also, but the movie actually does look really good. I mean, it looks incredible. The 60s. I mean, it's like so Silver Age comics, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, all over it. Galactus, the guilt of the Reed. I mean, if you don't know, in the comics, Reed's guilt is like integral to who Reed is as a character. So, I mean, I have a lot of theories around it, but I'm so excited. I think this trailer was amazing, and I think that this is going to be the best movie of the summer. I really do.
Yeah, and I'm with you, brother. I loved the trailer. I think the trailer gave us as fans what we needed. As I said, we got action. We were able to see the powers of all our heroes. I do think that Shia LaBeouf's design was not as crisp as I expected. I was actually very underwhelmed by the design, and a lot of people were coming at me saying, oh, like, it's silver, what do you expect? But why does the Silver Surfer in the 2008 Fantastic Four look better than the freaking Silver Surfer now? So I hope that they do make edits to make that silver shine a little more. I wasn't a fan of the hair either. It looked too toyish to me. But I will say her movement was sick and awesome. I love the Human Torch, and you can tell that they didn't really veer off of how they did what's his name's Human Torch? Who was the original Human Torch?
Jim Hammond.
Chris Evans. Sorry. So like they basically just copied the same way that he flames on. I hope he says flame on as well. I hope that it seems like he's just going on at will, but it looks like he's not.
If he doesn't say flame on or thing doesn't say clobber in time, I'm gonna be angry. Like that.
Yeah, I really want to see that.
Yeah,
I agree.
I didn't think Shia LaBeouf looked bad. Like I get the criticism, but I think she looks fine. Like I think I think her design is sufficient enough. It does the job. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. I want to see more of Reed stretching. John Campea was saying that he didn't think it looked that good, and you can't really he was like, he was just like, you can't make stretching look good. He's like, I don't know how it's going to look for the rest of the movie. He's just like, that's just not something that is going to look good in a movie regardless of the visual effects. So now that he said that, I'm looking out for it. But I thought before I heard that, I thought it looked good, and I still
Same here. Same here, bro.
That was interesting.
Dude, I loved how Sue Storm uses her powers, because in the old school, like when she used her powers, it was like an invisible field. You could actually see the blue. Like when she used her powers, I really like that.
Yes, it's invisible, but we're watching a fire, so we want it to be visible.
This foul thing is going to kill me every time. Yeah. I'm telling you. Yo, that's going to get me every time, bro, because you say it so casually, bro.
It's such a good one. Oh, man. When I thought of this today, I was like, because someone was like, the film, like, bro.
That is a great foul. They're like, what? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, bro. But But I do like though, bro, like in this trailer, as you said, right? Reed is harboring something very dark. And I do think a part of this harboring is something that we don't really know about. And you and I talked about this in private, where I said that something with that quote. I stretched the bounds of space, and they heard it. I believe Galactus and Silver Surfer are going to be threats, but I do believe that something is going down before the Silver Surfer and Galactus even show up. And I'm not sure what that thing is, but there is just something being hidden in this movie. And I have no idea, but something's
I
going
think
on
it's
behind the scenes.
I think that what's being hidden is the multiversal dynamic in this movie because we know that's going to be part of it. But I do believe that Reed is going to, you know, Reed's science and advancement is in the comics what attracts Galactus and Silver Surfer to Earth. So I think Reed, that's what's going to happen, and I think Reed's going to feel really guilty about it,
Mm,
which is basically confirmed in the trailer.
yeah, I'm I'm thinking it has to have something to do with Franklin as well. How do you feel about them not putting the daughter in there and only going with Franklin? Does that bother you at all or no?
It's too much. It's too much to do. Like they are establishing 4 team members, so to add one more is already a lot. To do 2 more, I think it would be too much. Maybe it has something to do with Franklin. I don't know. I just think that if Franklin, I disagree actually, because Franklin's going to be a baby. Like she's pregnant in this movie. So, yeah, Franklin is, born powerful, but he's not going to really be doing much with it as a baby. So I disagree with that.
Well, take this with a grain of salt, but there was a rumor of a 10-year gap in this movie.
That it's going to jump 10 years.
Yeah,
Uh, that, that
so
would change
so
things.
the rumor is that Galactus shows up and then there's like a 10-year gap of whatever happens.
Okay.
But as I said, take it with a super grain of salt. But that's what some of the guys, some of the insider guys were talking about. That there's gonna be some type of time gap, and a lot of people are saying
Yeah.
there's gonna be like a 10-year gap. But I don't. But we'll just have to see what happens, bro. I feel like there's a lot of questions, but that's what I love about this trailer is that it opened up a lot of questions. To the mind, and it just shows like a lot of fans are really into this. By the way, bro, the costume designs, like Reed was fly, bro. Them suits he had on, I mean, bro. And look, man, like I love streetwear, but when a dude is just suited up, slick hair back and fly, bro, like it's just classic, bro. And I love classic looks, and that's why I love people like James Bond, Ethan Hunt, because like they dress like classic men. So I love seeing Pedro sport that. I also love these Fantastic Four costumes. Do you like these?
I love them. I think they're some of the best costumes the MCU has ever done. Like they are so good.
Oh yeah, yeah. I like the spacesuits too. They had the four on them. So fire, bro.
I love I love when style has some retro style, but it's done to modern tastes.
Mhm.
I feel like everyone's always saying, "Oh, retro future," because like it sounds cool, but like, you know, I like to again. I like to be specific because I can't stand when people are vague because it's stupid. But I like that it is like very clearly a retro style, but it was made for modern audiences to appreciate. Now, the other thing that's interesting is I don't know if they changed things, but at some point it's possible that the villain was going to be Doctor Doom. Now, imagine if Doctor Doom is going to be the villain in Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. They can't he can't be a villain in like a Fantastic Four movie later on. They can't do that. You can't put someone at an Avengers level threat and then make them the villain of a smaller movie. So it's kind of annoying. Like, yes, I'm excited we're getting Doctor Doom, but I would like to get more. Oh, and by the way, that I got from John Campea. It was a good point. He's great, but he made a really good point because like think about it. If imagine if they did an Iron Man movie after Endgame and Thanos was the villain, like it would feel silly.
Yeah, and that's the problem that we've seen with the big movies is that yes, we get the best story, but the same weakness is that they have to do whatever it takes to tell the best story, and sometimes telling the best story doesn't set up the future well. As we saw um with
And they
Endgame.
don't,
So,
and that's another issue I just have with the MCU as a whole right now is that like they do things like that, and then they don't think about the consequences, and then they just change the rules because they don't like the consequences of their own decisions. And in universe, if your consequences of the actions in the universe don't matter, your universe doesn't matter.